We all know the way that colonialism traditionally deals with the other was always to exterminate it. At best, it gave the other the chance to adapt before. And that is the case, in my view, also of the art from the peripheries. Adaption, in this case, means the adoption and absorption of Occidental conceptual art principles and techniques to make it more palatable to Occidental public and market. In short, maybe a long-term extermination. I find in these issues a sense of urgency, as I think we might have here the last chance to try and understand as a token of whatever is left from their identity. If we adopt the simplest definition of globalization as the adoption of the capitalist model by the peripheries, then it is my opinion that in matters of culture and art, the colony is only a source of production produced. It is not enough that Southeastern Asian children produce Nike sneakers being paid a few pennies a day. Globalization requires that the middle class in the area wears those shoes as well and buy them at the same price as a teenager in New York or London. This applies to the art market as well. But, as we were talking yesterday, only too recently, moves to develop a peripheral field for Western markets are beginning to take shape. We could mention again the Art First drive, or even the Guggenheim Museum's bid for building satellite institutions around the world, following the success of the Bilbao branch. As you might know, another Frank Gehry designed Guggenheim Museum branch is being built in Abu Dhabi as we speak. From that point of view, as I said before, I think we are still in a colonial state, in a stage of adapt or die. However, the adoption of the art market principles of the Western institutions, and therefore the adoption and absorption of Western art into the peripheral, seem to be crawling in every periphery. China, on which we discussed a lot yesterday, seems to be lost, but with pockets of insurgent artists struggling between the adoption and the rejection of the Western structures and concepts, or maybe trying to find a way for both center and periphery to cohabit in the same globe. Africa seems to be holding there, especially because there are not so much political and commercial interests that require a faster pace of adoption. Eastern Europe seems to have come to an academical point in between holding to its identity and flirting with the West. If so, we might find in it a way out of the conflict. I mentioned Africa and Eastern Europe because I'm sure we're going to be listening about this later today. We must bear in mind, however, that Eastern Europe was always part of the European cultural heritage and was active in developing modernist ideas probably more than the west part of the continent, and that the peripheral position it developed was prompted by political circumstances rather than civilizational differences. What are the globalizing means of attaining the fortune and fame our market offers the artist? Uppermost in this scale of other issues lies one that we could call, paraphrasing the title of this session, the artist as a tourist. This is definitely a subject for another seminar, but to be concise, a growing number of artists in residency opportunities, some of these related to international exhibitions, make a point in inviting artists to work and create works in a specific urban context, or not urban as a matter of fact. We might even see in these nomadic artistic practices and in the media they use a trademark of the globalized art world, where artists need not to be fixed in a studio, but rather mobile. This might even account for the recession in the exhibition world, although not in the art as commodity market of traditional painting and sculpture. Photography and video, as well as installation and projects, are media that not only permit the artist to travel freely and creating whatever surroundings he is asked to, but actually dictate specific subject matter related to reality, popular culture, media, and political issues. In short, these practices embody the conceptual and processual elements that define the artistic mainstream in the last decade or so. In fact, the international exhibition phenomenon created a cast of artists that are sine qua non, a comfortable and excellent core with which to start and develop an international show. mobility, physically and conceptually, are without doubt a prerogative of these artists. We might briefly mention here a central point in the transition of the artist from the peripheral to the mainstream, and this is the complex issue of the diasporic artist, and as a matter of fact, the diasporic curator as well. But for that, we have to take a step back and touch once more the issue of the other. In fact, the issue of the other and the center and periphery are central to this discussion, and so far I've been skipping elegantly, I hope, the need to define it. It would be a fool's excuse to say that since, as a matter of fact, these have not been solved in the macrocultural level, it will also here, around artistic issues, impossible to define. It might be, in fact, a matter of semantics, since in the end, center and periphery are clearly defined in our minds in terms of macro-geographical, cultural, and economical gaps. Still, one definition might become handy at this point in my presentation, as I am trying to tackle the landslide towards the mainstream of European and American artwork. Normally, I like to define center and periphery as a matter of access to means of production and means of distribution, where artists in the center have the means to produce their work, that is, they have the commissions, the venues, the funds, and they have the means of distributing his or her works through galleries, exhibitions, festivals, etc. Artists in the peripheries are normally working with minimal means and a very reduced set of exhibition possibilities, and therefore a small public. What I normally like in this definition is that it takes away the issue from the geographical and opens it to artistic shape and content, be it genre, radicalism, or any other aspect that would make a work of art unwelcome in other wider circles. In this context, the globalization or peripheral art is simply done at making means of production and distribution available to peripheral artists, but only as long as their subject matter and form fits into these structures. However, and this is another point that helps me in positioning the artwork in a process of globalization rather than globalized, peripheral artists that manage to keep a taste of the exotic by adopting Occidental content in order to be absorbed by Occidental art are apparently criticized in the wrong places, giving rise to terms that I learned from the participants in the seminar, like banana artist and coconut artist, meaning yellow outside, white inside, and black outside and white inside, respectively, Asian and African derogative terms, respectively. Central to this process of globalization and adaptation is the role of the curator,